She thought she had lost everything when she caught her husband cheating, until her secret millionaire ally stepped in. What happened next? A twist so shocking it turned the tables in ways no one saw coming. Mia Carter sat at the grand dining table, her hands resting on her growing belly as she absent-mindedly traced small circles over the soft fabric of her dress. The soft hum of classical music played in the background, the crystal chandelier casting a warm golden glow over the elegantly set table. Yet, despite the beauty of the scene before her, a deep unease curled in the pit of her stomach. She hadn't touched her food, not a single bite. Ryan, her husband, sat across from her, scrolling through his phone without a care in the world. His sharp, chiseled features were highlighted by the dim lighting, his hair perfectly styled, his suit pristine. Everything about him screamed control and confidence. He was the perfect man on the outside, the kind of husband any woman would dream of. But tonight, something felt wrong. Mia had always been observant, a trait she had carried since childhood. Growing up with an older brother like Noah Carter, a fiercely protective and shrewd businessman, had taught her to read between the lines, to sense when something wasn't quite right. And right now, that gut instinct was screaming at her. Her eyes flickered to Ryan's phone, which he kept close to him as if guarding a treasure. A single notification had popped up earlier when he had momentarily placed it on the table, and though it was brief, Mia had caught a glimpse of it. Unknown number. I miss you already. When will I see you again? She had swallowed hard, keeping her expression neutral, but inside, her mind raced. Who was texting him? Why was the number unknown? And why had he tilted his phone away the moment she looked at it? Mia felt a sharp kick against her ribs, her baby moving inside her as if sensing her distress. She let out a quiet breath, her fingers pressing against her belly in an attempt to comfort both herself and the life growing within her. Ryan finally put his phone down, glancing up at her with a forced smile. You haven't touched your food, he noted, voice smooth yet distant. I'm not really hungry, Mia replied softly, watching him carefully. Long day. Ryan muttered, sipping his wine. You should eat. The baby needs nutrients. Mia barely resisted the urge to scoff. He hadn't even bothered to ask how she was feeling or what was on her mind. He never did these days. Their once warm and affectionate marriage had slowly turned into a cold, calculated arrangement, at least on his part. She bit her lip, debating whether to bring up what she had seen, but a part of her hesitated. If she was wrong, if she was simply overthinking things, she didn't want to create unnecessary conflict. Yet, deep down, she knew. She wasn't wrong. She needed proof. So instead of confronting him, she forced a small smile and nodded. You're right. I should eat. Ryan, satisfied with her response, returned his focus to his phone. Mia, however, had already made up her mind. Tonight, she would find out the truth. Later that night, after Ryan had fallen asleep in their massive king-sized bed, Mia carefully slid out from under the covers. Her heartbeat pounded in her chest as she tiptoed across the dimly lit room, her gaze fixed on the phone resting on his nightstand. She had never done this before, never invaded his privacy, never doubted him to this extent. But something told her that whatever she was about to find would change everything. Swallowing her nerves, she picked up the phone, her hands trembling slightly as she entered his passcode. She had memorized it long ago. Ryan was careless, often unlocking his phone in front of her. As the screen brightened, Mia's stomach twisted into knots. There it was, a hidden messaging app. Her fingers hovered over it before she tapped the icon, revealing a string of messages that made her blood run cold. Unknown number. Can't stop thinking about last night. When can we meet again? Ryan. Soon. I'll make time. Just be patient. Unknown number. I hate waiting. I want you now. Mia's breath hitched. Her vision blurred as she scrolled further. More messages, more lies, plans to meet, expensive gifts, empty promises to figure things out. Her entire world came crashing down in that moment. Her husband, the man who had once sworn to love and protect her, was having an affair. And he wasn't even trying to hide it. Mia felt her chest tighten, the betrayal sinking deep into her bones. A sob threatened to escape her throat, but she swallowed it down, forcing herself to remain silent. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of waking up to her pain. No, she needed to think, and she needed a plan. Clutching the phone tightly, she backed away from the bed, her breath uneven as she fought the overwhelming emotions clawing at her. She had to get out of there, had to clear her head before she did something reckless. She slipped out of the bedroom, making her way downstairs and stepping outside into the crisp night air. The city skyline stretched before her, the twinkling lights doing little to soothe the storm raging within her. Her hand instinctively went to her belly, a protective gesture as she whispered, "I won't let him do this to us." And then, as if the universe had heard her silent plea, her phone vibrated in her pocket. Mia glanced down, her breath catching in her throat when she saw the name on the screen. Noah Carter, her brother, the one person who had always been her rock. Without hesitation, she answered, "Mia." His deep voice was laced with concern. "It's late. What's wrong?" For a moment she couldn't speak. The weight of everything threatened to crush her. But then, as she heard the unwavering strength in her brother's voice, something inside her shifted. She wasn't alone. Taking a shaky breath, she finally spoke. "Noah, I need you." There was a brief silence before his response came, firm and without hesitation. "I'm on my way." And just like that, Mia knew. Her husband had no idea what was coming. He had no idea that he had just made the biggest mistake of his life, because when Noah Carter got involved, things never ended well for those who had wronged his family. And Ryan was about to find that out the hard way. Mia sat on the stone bench outside their penthouse, the city skyline stretching endlessly before her. The cold night air bit at her skin, but she barely felt it. Her mind was still spinning from what she had just uncovered. Ryan, her husband, the man she had built a life with, the man who had promised to cherish her and their child, had been betraying her all along. Her grip tightened around her phone as she replayed the messages in her mind. How long? How many lies? She had ignored the subtle changes in his behavior for months, dismissing them as stress from work. The late nights, the sudden business trips, the distant gazes. It had all been right in front of her, yet she had chosen to believe in him, to believe in the vows they had exchanged. The sound of tires screeching against the pavement pulled her from her thoughts. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb below, and before she could fully process it, the back door swung open. Noah Carter stepped out. Even in the dim glow of the streetlights, he radiated an aura of power and control. Dressed in a sharp black suit, his presence was commanding, his expression unreadable. But Mia knew her brother well. Beneath his calm exterior, Noah was a force of nature, a man who wielded power like a weapon, who built his empire with ruthless precision. And right now, his piercing gaze was locked on her. Mia barely had time to stand before he was striding toward her. What happened? His voice was low, controlled, but she could hear the simmering rage beneath it. She opened her mouth to speak, but the moment she met his gaze, the dam inside her broke. The weight of everything, the betrayal, the fear, the heartbreak, came crashing down, and before she knew it, tears were spilling down her cheeks. Noah didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, wrapping an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. It was a rare moment of vulnerability between them. Noah had always been the composed one, the protector, the man who never let emotions cloud his judgment. But right now he held her tightly, letting her lean into his strength. "Tell me everything," he murmured. Mia swallowed hard, forcing herself to breathe. She needed to get the words out. "It's Ryan," she whispered. "He's been cheating on me." Noah's body tensed, his jaw tightening, but he didn't speak. He simply waited, his patience unwavering. She stepped back, wiping her tears. "I saw the messages on his phone. He has a hidden app. He's been seeing someone else." Her voice wavered, but she pushed through. He was planning to meet her again. Noah exhaled slowly, his gaze darkening. Mia knew that look. It was the look he wore when he was about to destroy someone. "He thinks he can do this to you?" Noah's voice was deadly calm, but she could hear the storm brewing beneath it. "He thinks he can humiliate you, betray you, and just walk away unscathed." Mia shook her head. "I don't know what to do, Noah." Her brother studied her carefully, his eyes softening just a fraction. "You don't need to do anything, Mia. You have me." She hesitated. "I don't want a scandal. I don't want this to affect the baby." Noah's gaze flickered to her stomach, his expression unreadable. Then he looked back at her, his voice firm. "Mia, listen to me. You are not going to let this man destroy you. He made his choice, and now he's going to deal with the consequences." A shiver ran down her spine. "What are you going to do?" she asked. Noah's lips curved into a slow, dangerous smirk. "Ryan has no idea who he just betrayed," he said simply, "but he's about to find out." Mia's heart pounded. She knew Noah would never let this go. He had spent his entire life protecting her, and now that Ryan had crossed the line, there would be no mercy. For the first time that night, a sense of calm settled over her. She wasn't alone. Her husband might have shattered her trust, but her brother was here. And with Noah Carter on her side, she knew one thing for certain. Ryan was about to regret every single lie he had ever told. And this was only the beginning. Ryan entered the penthouse with his usual arrogance, tossing his keys onto the marble counter. His phone buzzed in his pocket, but he ignored it. Tonight had been good. He had spent the evening with her, the woman who made him feel alive again. Unlike Mia, who had become nothing more than a burden with her pregnancy. His lips curled in amusement as he loosened his tie. If only she knew how easy it was to deceive her. But the moment he stepped further into the living room, his amusement faded. Mia was standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, her arms wrapped protectively around her stomach. Her face was pale, her expression unreadable. The city lights cast long shadows around her, making her look almost fragile. Something felt off. "Mia," he said carefully, walking toward her. She didn't move, didn't flinch. "Where were you?" she asked softly. Ryan exhaled, already preparing his usual excuses. "Late meeting. The investors needed more time to finalize the deal." Mia finally turned to face him, and the look in her eyes sent a chill down his spine. "You're lying." Ryan's mind scrambled for control. "Mia, you're exhausted. You need to stop overthinking." "I saw the messages, Ryan." Silence. A cold, sinking feeling settled in his chest, but he quickly masked it with annoyance. "What are you talking about?" Mia pulled out her phone, her fingers trembling slightly as she tapped the screen. A second later, she turned it toward him. And there it was. The hidden app, the conversations, the proof. Every single message between him and his mistress. Ryan's mind raced. He had always been careful, always kept his phone close. How had she found it? "You went through my phone?" he snapped, anger laced with desperation. "Mia, that's a complete invasion of privacy." "Privacy?" Her voice cracked, but her eyes burned with fury. "You're accusing me of crossing a line when you've been sneaking around behind my back?" Ryan opened his mouth to respond, but she wasn't finished. "I loved you, Ryan. I trusted you, and you betrayed me while I'm carrying our child." There was a weight in her words that made his stomach twist. For the first time, he realized that Mia wasn't the naive, trusting wife he had always thought she would be. She wasn't crying, she wasn't begging, and she was angry, and something about that terrified him. "Mia, listen," he said, softening his tone. "I made a mistake. It didn't mean anything." "Don't." She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Don't insult me by pretending this was just some mistake." Ryan clenched his jaw. He needed to regain control of the situation. "Fine," he said, folding his arms. "What do you want? An apology? Money? A bigger house? Just tell me, and I'll fix this." Mia let out a hollow laugh. "You really think you can throw money at this and make it disappear?" She shook her head. "You don't get it, do you, Ryan? This isn't just about me. It's about our child." Something flickered in Ryan's expression, but Mia didn't wait for him to respond. "You were supposed to be my partner, my family, but instead you chose to lie, to betray us." She took a step closer, her voice unwavering. "So no, I don't want your money. I don't want your fake apologies. I want you to understand that you've lost me." Ryan's jaw clenched. "Mia, be reasonable." "No, you be reasonable." Her voice was sharp now. "Did you really think you could do this to me and walk away without consequences?" Ryan's patience snapped. "You're being dramatic. Do you know how many men do this? It's not a big deal." The moment the words left his mouth, he knew he had made a mistake. Mia's lips parted slightly, as if she couldn't believe he had actually said it. Then slowly, her expression hardened. "Wow," she whispered. "I guess I finally see you for who you really are." Ryan scoffed. "And what? You think you're going to just walk away? You think you can raise this baby without me?" Mia held his gaze. "I know I can." Silence. Ryan had always believed Mia was dependent on him, that she needed him, that no matter what he did, she would never leave. But now, looking at her standing there, strong, unwavering, he realized he had underestimated her. Still, he wasn't worried. Mia had no job, no real assets, no support system. "She won't survive without me." But then, his phone vibrated. He frowned, pulling it out of his pocket. It was a message from an unknown number. Check your email. Ryan hesitated before opening his laptop. The moment he did, his stomach dropped. Financial records, emails, transaction histories, all tied to his affair. Someone had gathered every single piece of evidence that could ruin him. His hands trembled as he scrolled. Who dash? Then his phone buzzed again. See you soon. Ryan's pulse spiked, and then he understood. This wasn't Mia. This was Noah Carter. Ryan's breath caught in his throat. Mia's brother, the billionaire, the man who could destroy him with a single phone call. And in that moment, Ryan finally realized he had made the biggest mistake of his life. Ryan's mind spiraled into panic. His fingers twitched over the keyboard as he stared at the damning evidence flooding his inbox. Noah Carter wasn't just a billionaire. He was a kingmaker in the business world, a ruthless strategic genius who controlled vast networks of power. And now, Ryan was his target. His phone buzzed again. Noah Carter is requesting a meeting. Ryan swallowed hard, his mind racing. He glanced at Mia, who was watching him with quiet resolve, her arms still wrapped around her stomach. She knew. She had set this up. And for the first time in his life, Ryan felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. He forced a smirk, masking his unease. You went to your brother? What? You couldn't handle this on your own? Mia tilted her head, her expression unreadable. I didn't have to go to him. He found out on his own. Ryan's jaw tightened. Of course he had underestimated Noah. The man had eyes and ears everywhere. Mia stepped closer, her voice eerily calm. You thought you could humiliate me, betray me, and walk away like nothing happened? She exhaled sharply. Ryan, you never understood the world you married into. Ryan clenched his fists. I made my own name. I don't need Noah Carter's approval. Mia let out a small, humorless laugh. Then why are you shaking? Ryan scoffed, turning away. This is ridiculous. He's not going to do anything. He doesn't have any legal grounds. Ding, another email notification. Ryan hesitated before clicking on it. His blood ran cold. The subject line read, Upcoming SEC investigation into Carter and Sterling investments. Attached was a leaked document detailing a pending investigation into his company's finances. If this information went public, his investors would pull out immediately. His company would crumble. Ryan's throat went dry. Noah wasn't playing fair. He was playing to destroy. Mia watched his expression shift. Still think he won't do anything? Ryan slammed his laptop shut, his heartbeat pounding in his ears. I need to fix this. Mia's lips pressed together, but there was no sympathy in her eyes. Good luck with that. He turned to her, desperation creeping into his voice. Mia, you don't have to do this. We can fix things. I can make this right. Mia's gaze didn't waver. You already made your choices, Ryan. Now, you have to live with them. His phone vibrated. This time it was a direct call. Noah Carter. Ryan hesitated. His mouth felt dry. His entire body was rigid with tension. Slowly, he pressed accept. Ryan. Noah's deep voice came through the line, controlled but ice cold. I'd tell you it's nice to speak with you, but we both know that'd be a lie. Ryan forced a breath. Listen, this is unnecessary. We can... No. Noah cut him off sharply. You listen. You had a good thing, Ryan. A wife who gave you everything. A child on the way. And you threw it all away for what? A temporary thrill? Ryan swallowed hard, his throat closing up. Noah continued, his tone sharper than steel. I've watched you, Ryan. I never liked you, but I trusted Mia's judgment. That was my mistake. Ryan's grip on the phone tightened. Noah, this is between me and Mia. You don't have to get involved. A low chuckle. Oh, I'm already involved. Noah's voice dropped. You see, Ryan, men like you, men who think they can get away with anything. They only understand one thing. Ryan's stomach twisted. And what's that? Loss. Ryan felt his chest tighten. Noah spoke over him. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign the divorce papers Mia's lawyer sends you tomorrow. You're going to walk away without contesting anything. No alimony, no custody battle, no games. Ryan's breath hitched. And if I don't? The silence that followed was deafening. Then Noah spoke, his voice almost bored. Well, you can always try to fight it. A pause. But you'll lose everything. Ryan clenched his jaw. You can't just... I can. Noah interrupted smoothly. And I will. The SEC report was just the first move. If you make this difficult, I'll bury you so deep you won't even have pennies to your name. Ryan could barely breathe. Noah's voice was calm, but his words carried the weight of absolute power. And let's be clear about something, Noah continued. This isn't revenge, it's justice. You thought Mia was weak, that she had nowhere to go, but you forgot one thing. Ryan shut his eyes. He already knew what was coming. She has me. Ryan's mind raced. He had spent years building his empire, crafting his public image, but all of that was fragile in the face of Noah Carter's influence. His voice was hoarse. What do you really want? Noah exhaled. I want my sister to be free from you. Ryan's hands balled into fists. He was outmatched. He had lost. Fine, Ryan bit out. I'll sign the papers. Noah's voice remained impassive. Smart decision. The line went dead. Ryan let out a shaky breath, dropping his phone onto the counter. His entire body felt like it was on fire, a mix of rage, humiliation, and fear. He turned back to Mia, who was still watching him, her expression unreadable. Her lips parted. It's over, Ryan. For the first time, he truly believed her. The divorce papers arrived the next morning. Ryan sat at his sleek marble dining table, staring at the thick envelope with his name printed in bold letters. It felt heavier than it should have been, like the weight of everything he had lost was condensed into those neatly stacked pages. He hesitated. Signing this meant it was real, that Mia was gone. He had spent years controlling his own narrative, manipulating situations to his advantage. But this was out of his hands. His lawyer, Jason, stood across from him, expression unreadable. It's a straightforward agreement, Ryan. You waive any claims to alimony, assets, and future business interests connected to Mia. You'll have no parental rights to the baby. In return, there won't be any legal action taken against you for the financial misconduct Noah's team dug up. Ryan's jaw locked. He hadn't even known about that. Mia wasn't just walking away, she was leaving with her dignity, her freedom, and her child, and he was left with nothing but the ruin of his own choices. Jason adjusted his tie. You don't really have an option here. Ryan's fingers clenched around the pen. His mind flickered back to the moment he had first met Mia, the quiet brilliance in her eyes, the warmth of her smile. He had once convinced himself that she was his greatest achievement, the woman who made him look better. Now he saw the truth. She had never needed him, but he had needed her far more than he ever realized. Ryan exhaled sharply, forcing himself to move. He scrawled his name at the bottom of the papers, the ink drying too quickly for his liking. It was done. Jason nodded. I'll have this processed immediately. Ryan didn't respond. He only watched as Jason took the papers and disappeared through the door. And just like that, Mia was no longer his wife. Mia sat in Noah's penthouse sipping a warm cup of tea, her fingers absently brushing over the curve of her stomach. She was free. For the first time in months, she could breathe without the suffocating weight of betrayal pressing against her ribs. Noah walked in. His expression relaxed for the first time since everything had unraveled. It's done, he said simply. Ryan signed the papers. Mia let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Her brother sat across from her, studying her carefully. Are you okay? She nodded slowly. Yeah, I think I am. Noah tilted his head. You don't have to be strong all the time, Mia. Her throat tightened. I know. She had spent so long pretending that she was fine, convincing herself that she had to endure everything alone. But now, she didn't have to. Mia set her cup down, her fingers trembling slightly. I keep thinking about everything. How much I let happen. How many signs I ignored. Noah leaned forward. Mia, listen to me. This isn't your fault. Ryan made his choices and he's paying for them. You're not responsible for his mistakes. Mia exhaled shakily, nodding. I know, but it's hard not to wonder. Her voice trailed off, but Noah understood. You loved him, he said quietly, and he didn't deserve that love. Mia blinked away the sting of tears. No, he didn't. Noah reached across the table, his hand covering hers. You're going to be okay, and you're not alone in this. You have me. You have Ethan. You have Liam. Your family, Mia. And family protects each other. A small, watery smile broke across her lips. I know. For the first time in a long time, she believed it. Noah leaned back, smirking slightly. Now, if you want, I can make sure Ryan never works in the city again. Mia let out a surprised laugh, shaking her head. No, I think he's already dealing with enough consequences. Noah shrugged. Shame. Mia chuckled. Thank you, Noah, For everything. His expression softened. Always, little sister. And just like that, Mia Carter closed the door on her past and stepped into a future where she was finally free. Mia woke up to the soft morning light streaming through the penthouse windows. For the first time in months, she felt light, as if the invisible chains that had held her down had finally shattered. She stretched, letting out a slow breath, her hand instinctively resting on her growing belly. It's just us now, she thought. No more lies, no more betrayals. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. "It's open," she called. Ethan walked in, holding a steaming cup of coffee and a pastry bag. "Good morning, soon-to-be single mom extraordinaire." Mia rolled her eyes, but a smile tugged at her lips. "You bring food?" Ethan smirked. "Of course. I figured you'd need something sweet to celebrate your newfound freedom." Mia took the cup from him, inhaling the rich aroma. "Thank you." Ethan flopped onto the couch, stretching his long legs. "So, what's next?" Mia hesitated. That was the big question, wasn't it? She had spent so long trapped in the toxic cycle of Ryan's deception that she hadn't really thought about what came after. "I don't know," she admitted. "I mean, I want to get back into my work, focus on the baby, but beyond that?" She shrugged. "I haven't really figured it out yet." Ethan studied her for a moment. "You know, you don't have to figure it all out today, but whatever you do, just promise me you're done with men like Ryan." Mia let out a short laugh. "Oh, I promise." Ethan grinned. "Good. Because Noah and I would rather not have to deal with another idiot who doesn't know what he's got until it's gone." Mia's smile faltered for just a second, because as much as she hated to admit it, there was still a tiny part of her that mourned what she had thought her marriage was. But then she remembered the betrayal, the lies, the moment she had walked into that restaurant and seen Ryan with someone else while she carried his child. She forced herself to let that pain go. "It's over," she said firmly. "For real this time." Ethan nodded approvingly. "That's my girl." A week later, Mia stood in front of a massive glass window overlooking the city. The office space Noah had given her was more luxurious than she needed, but he had insisted. "You need a fresh start," he had said, "and this is your fresh start." She was going to rebuild her own business, her own legacy. Ryan had always downplayed her ambitions, treating her work like a hobby rather than a passion. But now, there was nothing holding her back. Her phone buzzed, a message from her lawyer. Finalized, the divorce is official. Mia closed her eyes, exhaling slowly. It's done. Noah walked in a moment later, holding a thick folder. "I got you something." Mia raised an eyebrow. "If it's another expensive office upgrade, I swear." Noah smirked, shaking his head. "No, this is better." He handed her the folder. She opened it, scanning the first page. Her breath caught. Ryan Carter, investigative report. "What?" Noah leaned against the desk, arms crossed. "We both know Ryan was siphoning money from your joint accounts, but what you don't know is that he's been doing it to other people too. And I just so happen to have a few connections dig deeper." Mia's eyes widened as she flipped through the pages. He's in debt?" "Up to his neck," Noah confirmed. "Apparently his investments didn't pan out. And now, he's scrambling." Mia sat down, processing the information. Ryan had always been obsessed with winning, with maintaining the illusion that he was successful. But now, he was losing. Badly. Noah watched her carefully. "So, what do you want to do?" Mia let out a slow breath. She had a choice. She could expose Ryan, ruin what little reputation he had left. But then she thought about it. Ryan had already lost. His greed, his lies, his betrayal, they had all caught up to him. And she had everything she needed. She had her future, her family, her child. And that was enough. Mia closed the folder and handed it back. "Nothing." Noah raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" She nodded. "Let him deal with the mess he made. I'm done looking back." For the first time in a long time, she meant it. Noah smirked. "Proud of you, sis." Mia smiled. "Me too." And just like that, she finally let go. The grand ballroom of the Sinclair Hotel buzzed with life, the crystal chandeliers casting golden reflections across the polished marble floors. High society's elite were gathered in their finest attire, sipping on expensive champagne and exchanging whispers of the latest gossip. Laughter and polite conversation filled the air, but there was an undercurrent of tension. People were always waiting for something scandalous to happen. Mia had not stepped foot in a setting like this since she had left Ryan. Back then she had stood beside him, playing the perfect wife, smiling at his colleagues, and pretending to be oblivious to the way he manipulated people. She had been the silent, devoted partner, attending these events as nothing more than an accessory to his success. But tonight, she was not Ryan Carter's wife. Tonight she was Mia Lawrence, a woman who had survived betrayal and heartbreak and had come out stronger. She smoothed a hand over the emerald green gown that hugged her body with effortless grace. The dress had been chosen for a reason. Mia knew what made an impact in a room like this. She had once lived in this world, and now she was returning on her own terms. At her side, Ethan handed her a glass of sparkling water. "You sure about this?" he murmured under his breath. Mia took a slow sip, her eyes scanning the room. "I have to be." Across the ballroom, Ryan stood with a group of businessmen, flashing the same confident smile he always had. But Mia saw through it now. His suit might still be tailored, his watch still gleaming under the chandeliers, but there was a stiffness in his shoulders that betrayed him. He was nervous. Mia tilted her head slightly, intrigued. He knows he's slipping. Ryan had built his empire on deception, but the cracks were starting to show. She knew from Ethan and Noah that his finances were not as solid as they once were. His investments had become riskier, and his connections in the business world had started to wane. Mia straightened her back, letting him see that she wasn't just surviving, but thriving was all she needed tonight. She wasn't here for revenge. She was here to show him that his betrayal had not destroyed her. Ryan felt the hair on the back of his neck rise before he even turned around, and when he did, his stomach twisted. "Mia!" She stood at the edge of the ballroom, glowing, confident, independent, unbothered. Ryan's throat went dry. She wasn't supposed to be here. She wasn't supposed to look like she had moved on. "Problem?" one of the men beside him asked, noticing his distraction. Ryan forced a smile. "Not at all." But his palms were sweating. For the past 3 years, he had convinced himself that Mia had been nothing without him. He had imagined her struggling, desperate, maybe even regretting ever leaving. But this woman standing across the room wasn't desperate. She wasn't struggling, and she was glowing. Ryan clenched his jaw. He hated the thought that she was happier without him. Mia could feel Ryan's gaze on her, but she refused to look in his direction. Instead, she turned to Ethan and smiled. "Dance with me?" Ethan chuckled. "Now that's a first. You hate dancing." "Tonight I don't." As they moved to the dance floor, Mia let herself enjoy the moment. This was her night. She had won. The music swelled, and Ethan led her in smooth, effortless movements. She wasn't thinking about Ryan anymore. This night was about her. But Ryan wasn't done. He watched as Mia and Ethan moved together, her laughter soft and genuine. Something ugly curled in his stomach. He had never seen her look at him like that. Not in years. Ryan had lost the moment he chose deception over love, and he knew it. Letting go had never felt so good. But for Ryan, letting go was never an option. As the night went on, he made his way toward her, his expression unreadable. He wasn't ready to let Mia walk away so easily. Ryan stood motionless as Mia disappeared into the crowd, the weight of her final words sinking into his chest like an anchor. He clenched his jaw, forcing himself to breathe evenly. He had convinced himself that Mia would always be part of his story, that one way or another he could reel her back in if he ever wanted to. But tonight had shattered that illusion. She was gone, not just physically, but in every way that mattered. Ryan exhaled sharply, his fingers twitching at his side. His mind raced, scrambling for something, anything, that would give him back the upper hand. That was when he saw Liam Carter. Mia's billionaire brother stood near the entrance, speaking to an older businessman. Liam was dressed impeccably, his posture effortlessly commanding. Even from a distance, it was clear that he exuded authority. Ryan's pulse quickened. Liam had always been a shadow looming in the background of his marriage to Mia, watching, assessing, waiting for the moment he would inevitably prove himself right. Ryan hadn't seen Liam in years, but the moment their eyes locked across the room, he knew one thing for certain. Liam had been waiting for this. Ryan squared his shoulders and started walking toward him. Liam finished his conversation just as Ryan approached. He turned slowly, his expression impassive. "Ryan." "Liam," Ryan replied smoothly, shoving his hands into his pockets. "Long time." Liam didn't move, didn't so much as blink. "Not long enough." Ryan let out a short laugh, but there was no humor in it. "I see you're still holding on to that grudge." Liam tilted his head slightly. You mean the grudge about you betraying my sister while she was pregnant? That grudge? His voice was cool, but there was a dangerous undertone beneath it. Ryan's jaw tightened. That was years ago. And yet here you are, still playing the victim, Liam said, eyes sharp. Tell me, Ryan, was tonight supposed to be your grand moment? Did you think Mia would see you and suddenly forget everything? Ryan forced a smirk. I just wanted to check in on her. It's not a crime to want to see how she's doing. Liam took a step forward, his gaze darkening. She's doing better than you ever expected, isn't she? Ryan didn't respond. Liam studied him for a moment before shaking his head. You don't get it, do you? Ryan bristled. Get what? Liam's voice was calm, but every word was precise, deliberate. Mia is no longer someone you can manipulate, Ryan. She's stronger than you ever gave her credit for. And do you know what else? Ryan stared at him, refusing to break eye contact. Liam smirked, his next words laced with finality. She never needed you? She just didn't know it back then. Ryan felt something crack inside him. He opened his mouth, searching for a retort, but nothing came out. Liam took a step back, adjusting his cufflinks. Walk away, Ryan, because if you try to crawl back into Mia's life, I will make sure you regret it. Ryan stood frozen as Liam turned and walked away, disappearing into the sea of guests. For the first time in his life, Ryan felt completely, utterly powerless. Mia sat in the back seat of Ethan's car, gazing out the window as the city lights blurred past. The night had been overwhelming. Seeing Ryan, confronting her past, and finally closing the door on it once and for all. Are you okay? Ethan's voice was soft, careful. Mia smiled slightly. I am. And for the first time in years, she meant it. Her past no longer held power over her. She had reclaimed her story, her future. As the car pulled up to her home, Mia felt an undeniable sense of peace settle over her. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was thriving. And she was finally, truly free. Mia stepped out of Ethan's car, her heels clicking against the smooth pavement of her driveway. The night air was crisp, carrying the distant hum of city life. Yet in this moment, everything around her felt eerily quiet. She took a deep breath, letting the cold air fill her lungs, grounding her. Tonight had been a whirlwind, a confrontation she never expected, yet one that had given her something priceless: closure. Ryan was officially a ghost of her past, a mistake she had learned from, but one she refused to let define her. Seeing him tonight had only solidified what she had known deep down for years. He never loved her, not really. She was just a convenience to him, a trophy he had carelessly discarded the moment something shinier caught his eye. But Mia, she was done being disposable. As she walked toward the front door, her phone vibrated in her purse. She pulled it out, glancing at the screen. Liam. A small smile tugged at her lips. She answered. Hey. Hey yourself. His voice was steady, but there was a quiet protectiveness beneath it. Just making sure you got home safe. Mia exhaled, leaning against the doorframe. I did. Thanks for looking out for me tonight. Liam chuckled softly. Always. There was a pause before he added, He's not going to try anything, you know. Not after tonight. Mia smirked. He wouldn't dare. Liam hummed in agreement. I meant what I said, Mia. If he ever so much as breathes in your direction again. I know, she interrupted gently, but you don't have to fight my battles anymore, Liam. I can handle myself now. Liam was quiet for a moment. Then, with a hint of pride in his voice, he said, Yeah, I know you can. A warmth spread through Mia's chest. For so long she had leaned on Liam, on his strength, his unwavering loyalty. But now, she was standing on her own. As they said their goodbyes, Mia entered her home, locking the door behind her. She made her way to her bedroom, peeling off her heels and letting out a contented sigh as she sank onto the plush mattress. The weight she had carried for years was finally gone. For the first time in forever, Mia felt light. The following morning, Mia woke up to sunlight streaming through her curtains. A rare sense of peace wrapped around her, a stark contrast to the tension that had ruled her life in the past. She stretched lazily before rolling over and grabbing her phone. 27 missed calls. Her brows furrowed as she scrolled through the notifications. Ryan. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. Of course. Just last night he had been humiliated, stripped of any power he thought he had over her. And now, he was scrambling, desperate to regain control. But Mia wasn't playing his games anymore. She deleted the call log without hesitation, tossing her phone onto the nightstand before making her way to the kitchen. As she brewed herself a cup of coffee, her thoughts wandered. Her new branding agency, Rooted Design Studio, was set to launch in a week. It was a project she had poured her heart into, a symbol of her resilience, her independence. She had built something real, something that was hers and hers alone. And now, she was ready to take on the world. Mia sipped her coffee, staring out the window at the rising sun. Her life was just beginning. Across town, Ryan sat in his office, his fingers gripping his phone as another call went straight to voicemail. His jaw clenched. Mia was ignoring him, her, the woman who once hung on to his every word, who used to forgive him no matter what. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temple. He had underestimated her. Last night had been a disaster. Liam's words still echoed in his mind, taunting him. She never needed you. Ryan scoffed. That wasn't true. Mia had loved him, needed him. Hadn't she? But as he replayed last night's events, doubt crept in. She had looked right through him, like he was nothing, like he had never mattered. For the first time in his life, Ryan felt something foreign settle in his chest. Regret. Not because he had lost Mia, no, Ryan didn't do regret, but because he had lost control. And that was unacceptable. His eyes flickered to the framed newspaper article on his desk. Carter Enterprises expands into global markets. Liam Carter had always been a step ahead of him, always better. And now he had Mia's loyalty too. Ryan's grip tightened around his phone. He wasn't going to let this go. Mia might think she had won, but this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. A few days later, Mia stood in the heart of her new office, surrounded by the team she had handpicked. The energy in the room was electric. Everyone was eager, passionate, ready to bring her vision to life. As she glanced around, pride swelled in her chest. This was it, the beginning of something big. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, snapping her out of her thoughts. She glanced at the screen. Liam. She stepped away from the group, answering the call. Hey, what's up? Liam's voice was clipped, urgent. Mia, we have a problem. Her stomach tightened. What kind of problem? Liam exhaled sharply. Ryan's trying to sabotage your launch. Mia's blood ran cold. What? I just got word that he's been talking to some of your potential investors, spreading rumors, trying to make them pull out before your agency even gets off the ground. Mia's fingers curled into fists. She should have known. Ryan was a sore loser, incapable of accepting defeat. But this was low, even for him. A fire ignited in Mia's chest. She had fought too hard, come too far to let him ruin this. Her voice was steady when she spoke. Let him try. Liam paused. Mia, no. Her jaw set with determination. I'm not running. Not anymore. Liam was silent for a moment before he chuckled softly. That's my sister. Mia smiled, but there was a sharpness to it. Ryan thought he could take her down. Let him come. She was ready. 2 weeks later, Rooted Design Studio launched to massive success. Despite Ryan's attempts to derail her, Mia had pushed through, securing key investors and proving herself in the industry. Her company was thriving. And Ryan, he was nothing more than a footnote in her story. As she stood in her new office overlooking the city skyline, Mia exhaled deeply. She had won. Not just against Ryan, but against the version of herself who once believed she wasn't enough. She had built a life she was proud of, and she had done it on her own terms. Mia Carter was unstoppable, and nothing, not Ryan, not her past, not even her own fears, would ever hold her back again. If this story moved you, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories of resilience and redemption. Your support means the world to us. The world to us. The world to us.